It's Tuesday, April 15th.
We will bring in the biggest crime crackdown in Canadian history.
Today, defense is not only about manpower, it's about brainpower.
Our plan is to hire 35,000 new nurses.
From crime to defense to healthcare, party leaders are making their pitches ahead of this week's crucial debates.
Bring Kilmar home now.
Demanding freedom, protesters outside the White House calling for a Maryland man to be returned to the United States as El Salvador's president meets with the U.S. president inside.
Aww, that's so sweet.
Trying to make amends, ads from an anonymous American are popping up in Vancouver saying sorry to Canadians about some of the rhetoric coming from the White House.
Fans have been deprived, and now they're very excited.
It's way too early to tell, but most hyped Habs prospect in a generation is off to a promising start. Stay with us, Canada. Your morning starts right now. Good morning, Canada. Welcome to Your Morning. I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake.
Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Teddy Wilson, in for our pal, Lindsey Deluce. She'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, Teddy, it's great to have you. I'm Kelsey McEwen. Happy Tuesday.
It's good to be here. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Saw one of my favorite bands ever last night, Mogwai.
Oh, they're my favorite, too.
They are?
I don't know who that is.
They're a post-rock band from Scotland. They were amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, very, cinematic stuff.
How late were you out?
I was out till we left partway through the encore, and because I knew I had to get home, but we probably didn't get home till 11. So late, yeah. Yep, so I'm going to try to be awake today.
You will be.
Here we go. Thank you for the faith. Let's turn to the top news stories we're following today, and we'll begin with the federal election. On the campaign trail, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is proposing a move no prime minister has ever made.
Someone who takes multiple lives should be held accountable for each one.
Poilievre says as prime minister, he would use the notwithstanding clause to override a Supreme Court ruling on consecutive cases, this on cases of multiple murders. The court had found imposing sentences back-to-back was unconstitutional. But Poilievre says no mass murderer should ever be granted parole. But when he was asked to name an example, he did not name one.
We have to give our armed forces the new resources that they need to defend our sovereignty.
Liberal leader Mark Carney, meantime, is promising to create a new defense procurement agency that will make buying Canadian a priority. Carney also proposed a new research bureau focused on digital defense. In 2019, the Liberals promised a new defense procurement agency, but that never materialized.
We're up against a crisis in our healthcare, and that crisis is a shortage of healthcare workers.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says an NDP government would hire 35,000 nurses by the year 2030. Singh is also promising an appropriate ratio between nurses and patients, but he did not say specifically what that ratio would be. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford is defending comments made by his former campaign strategist, criticizing the federal Conservative campaign.
At the end of the day, the people will decide which way they want this country to move forward, but sometimes the truth hurts.
So Ford's longtime campaign manager, Corey Tenike, has been outspoken about how the Conservatives have fallen behind in the polls. And Liberal leader Mark Carney is apologizing for the actions of some Liberal staffers who planted buttons at a Conservative conference.
This is totally unacceptable, to be absolutely clear. And I, on behalf of my campaign, I was unaware of this behavior, but on behalf of my campaign, I apologize for it unreservedly. Okay.
So one of the buttons read, "Stop the steal," of course, similar to a slogan repeated by those in the United States that believe the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump. Another button has a bar through the name of Pierre Poilievre's campaign director, Jenny Byrne, with Corey Tenike's name underneath. As first reported by the CBC over the weekend, Liberal War Room staffers told a reporter they planted the buttons at the Canada Strong and Free conference last week. In a statement, the Conservatives say the Liberals have been caught red-handed importing American-style politics into Canada. El Salvador's president says he will not return a man deported by mistake to his country back to the United States.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
President Nayib Bukele there seen speaking during a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is being held in a notorious prison in El Salvador. The Maryland father has been accused by the White House of being a gang member, but without evidence. They've also admitted he was deported by mistake. The U.S. Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate his return. The Trump administration argues they cannot bring him home, with Attorney General Pam Bondi saying it's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. So far, the Trump White House has sent more than 200 migrants to El Salvador. Many were removed from the country using a law that dates back to 1798. And a U.S. judge in Vermont is ordering the Trump administration not to deport a Columbia University student and pro-Palestinian activist. Moshe Madawi was arrested upon arriving for an interview for his U.S. citizenship petition in Vermont. His lawyer says he was taken into custody in direct retaliation for his role in campus demonstrations against the Israel-Gaza war. Madawi was born in the West Bank and is planning to return to Columbia University for a master's degree this fall. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, have not yet commented. Well, an anonymous American is trying to send a message to Canadians via some billboards in Vancouver.
It says, "Dear Canada, we are so very, very, very sorry."
CTV News has been in contact with the person that bought this ad space, but he will not share his name. The boards were posted in response to how the U.S. is treating Canada through its threats on Canada's sovereignty. He says he wants this action only to be seen as American friends reaching out to Canadians. He's also said more boards and more messages are coming soon. Well, the family of Stanley Cup champion Chris Simon says the effects of CTE have posthumously been discovered in his brain. Simon, known as one of the toughest players of his era, died by suicide last year at 52 years old. According to a statement from his family, he was diagnosed with stage 3 CTE. They also described the struggles he endured because of the illness, adding he was a loving, gentle man whose family meant the world to him before he was lost to CTE. Of the 20 NHLers who have been studied at Boston University's CTE Center, 19 have been diagnosed with the disease. Well, for Habs fans, the age of Demidov has arrived.
Steered in. Here's a chance in front. They score. It's Demidov. First NHL goal.
So Ivan Demidov scored a goal and an assist in his NHL debut. The Habs ended up losing to Chicago in a shootout as they wait to clinch that playoff spot. Demidov was the talk of the town before the game, as fans wondered what line he would play on and how much ice time he'd get. Demidov's number 93 jersey is already sold out at the Habs official store. The 5th pick from the 2024 draft, Demidov signed a 3-year contract last week. Well, this expo over the weekend in Winnipeg, I guess you could call it the cat's meow.
We're looking forward to what's to come. You know, we're hoping that with each event we can do something a little bit differently to keep the cat community really excited and engaged.
Oh my, best convention ever. Organizers of the appropriately named Meow Mania say about 1,000 people turned out on Sunday to check out the event. There were 40 different vendors and an adoption fair meant to help cats living at local shelters find their forever homes.